Good afternoon, Department of Police Accountability. Spencer speaking. How can I help you?
Hi, Spencer. I did forget the name of the inspector that I was on the phone with, but I had just been on the phone with her a few minutes ago, and I said I would call back.
Okay. Okay, give me a second.
Hi, this is Investigator Torgerson.
Hi, Investigator Ferguson. I just spoke to you on the phone. My name is Charlie. Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Okay, so what's the date and time of this complaint?
It's October 5th of this year, so October 5.
Okay, and the time it occurred?
The time I don't have. There's an exact time because
approximately would be fine.
Yeah, let's just say in the morning. I believe it was maybe 9 or 10 in the morning.
Okay, and do you happen? Where did this happen at?
At my residence, at the residence, the address.
Did it happen in the building or in your actual apartment number?
In front of the building, I guess. Or not, I guess,
okay.
But in front.
And then, do you happen to have a police report number?
I have a reference number. It is 212-722-555.
Wait, sorry, 212.
722. And then 555.
Okay. Okay, would you mind if we took a recorded statement?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right, hold on 1 second, okay? I'm going to say a little script, so give me 1 sec. Today is November 23rd, 2021, 3:37 p.m. This is regarding DPA case number 48814-21. This is Terry Torgerson with the Department of Police Accountability. I'm on the phone with Mr. Charlie.
Yes.
Okay, and do I have your permission to record this conversation?
Yes.
Okay, so this is about an incident that occurred on October 5th, 2021 at approximately 9 to 10 a.m. in front of the CAD number you provided was 212-722-555. If you could please tell me what happened.
So on that morning, the SFPD police officers showed up at my house, seemingly or supposedly because I was calling Tampa Police Department 911.
Wait, Tampa? I'm sorry, Tampa Police? You called Tampa Police?
Yes, exactly. And then from what I was informed, it's not clear because I've heard different things. From what I was informed, Tampa PD contacted SFPD either to try to arrest me or figure out what was going on as to why I was calling Tampa.
Okay, so I would just want to make sure I get this straight. So you called Tampa Police, is that correct?
Yes.
And then Tampa Police called SFPD?
Exactly. As far as I know.
And then, okay, so then what happened?
So then Tampa SFPD shows up at my house, and this is all recorded as well, and it's posted publicly online. They show up, and I'm.
Okay, do you know? Is that on YouTube?
Yes, I can give you the address now, or would you like it later?
Actually, if you want to email it to me later, that would be great.
Okay. So the police officers show up, and I, excuse my language, but I really did start the conversation with, "Why the fuck are you here?" And the reason for that is there should be history on the apartment as far as this has happened multiple times, where my mother lives in Tampa, Florida, and is dealing with mental health issues, and will contact SFPD to either contact wellness checks or kind of see what's going on with me. And it's not appropriate because there's nothing really going on with me, and she's not she's not contacting mental health professionals or anyone else with her concerns. And that's one of the reasons for this complaint, which is SFPD for some reason keeps telling my mother everything's okay.
Okay, so your mom calls SFPD for them to check on you. Is that correct? The wellness check.
Yes, and to clarify, just so it doesn't get confusing, on October 5th, it is unclear if my mother called San Francisco the police department or Tampa Police Department called them, because I've heard both stories from Tampa PD.
Okay.
In other words, Tampa PD, for some reason, has not clarified whether or not they're the ones who requested San Francisco PD to show up at my house, or if it was my mother requesting another wellness check. And SFPD as well did not clarify that when they were here. So do you get that? Okay,
and so when you called Tampa Police that morning, what did you call them for?
For an incident in Tampa, to render aid to my mother.
Okay, so you called in regards to your mother to render her aid?
Exactly.
Okay. And, can I ask you what kind of aid you were requesting?
Yeah, mental health aid, because, again, my mother... My mother... The whole thing about this right now is the whole reason for the complaint is my mother believes that it is appropriate to contact either SFPD or Tampa PD in order to try to contact me instead of instead of either contacting me directly and having a conversation with me or contacting other services that can provide them, because the police obviously aren't and have not been able to provide my mother an answer as to why everything's okay. Okay, so it sounds like you're calling just to have them check on her mental health, and she's calling on the police to check on your mental health. Is that correct? Exactly. And the only thing that is causing this to have gone and happened over and over again, and the purpose of this complaint, has been SFPD saying everything is okay over and over again without being able to justify why they came to that conclusion or how they came to the conclusion. Okay, so I think I have it. So I just want to make sure. So then you don't know if Tampa Police called SFPD or your mom called SFPD. So I presume SFPD showed up at your house, correct? Yes. Okay, and so then what happened? So they just showed up and left as if everything's fine. Now, I am summarizing that, so I am going to go into more details. But again, that is the purpose. That is the purpose of this call, which is they have now repeatedly, many times showed up and left as if there's nothing going on. But I will get into the details as to what happened. So again, SFPD showed up. I again initiated the contact with them and asking them why they were showing up. They were not able to clarify why they were showing up, why they felt it was appropriate for them to show up. I then requested, could they at least contact my mother and at least explain to my mother some of the simple facts that were happening that day as well as this day, which is I have congestive heart failure. I am dying. It is what I'm dealing with. I can't really be going through this stress. My mother is contacting me, believing that I need help of some sort, but unable to say what that help is. Obviously, that's a problem as it is. Could SFPD at the very least say to her, it's not appropriate for you to call us for this type of situation? SFPD then called my mother and spoke to her on the phone. Again, it's recorded, so I don't know the exact amount of time, but they spoke for at least, it seems like a minute or 2 or 3 minutes. It wasn't a very quick phone call. Then Officer, I believe Lara, then just hung up the phone with her, and I asked him, can you what's going on? What to do next? And he just said, everything's fine. And I said, everything's not fine. Then they asked me if I needed medical assistance, and I then reiterated that I myself don't need medical assistance, but the whole reason I was calling 911 in Tampa was because I do need medical assistance in Tampa. And the issue being that for some reason, Tampa is they're not helping my mother. They're calling SFPD to tell me not to call. SFPD is then showing up and saying, hey, we don't care if you call or not, and then leaving as if everything's fine. Okay. So with respect to your complaint about SFPD, you're complaining that they're not doing anything to... Well, they're involving themselves in a situation. In other words, what I've heard, it goes back and forth, but I've heard various times it's not appropriate for them to be involved. It's not, a wellness check is just whether or not you're going to kill yourself. And if you're not, they're going to leave. They can't ask any other questions, which does seem appropriate. But the thing is, they have asked other questions. So in other words, on that day, on October 5th, they did speak to my mother. They, for whatever reason, determined everything was okay. Even after they asked me if everything was okay. And I said, no, it's not actually. Because you have just spoken to her, she believes there are problems happening. She still contacted me that same day, and then I have no one that I can contact, right? Because I can't contact SFPD again because SFPD is just saying everything's fine. If I contact Tampa, Tampa just contacts SFPD and says, hey, why is Charlie contacting us? As if there's nothing going on. In other words, that day, that particular day, the complaint is the officer, he himself, previously, I've been told by SFPD, in that type of situation, it isn't appropriate for them to be involved, which means it wouldn't even be appropriate for them to show up at my house as it is because they already have the history of what's been happening. They know specifically. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand what your complaint is. Your complaint is that they should not have responded to your mom's request for the welfare check. They should not have come to your house?
No, it's not that. It's that they did, and then they said everything was fine when obviously everything is not fine. Okay,
so I just want to make sure I capture what your complaint is because I have to put a word to it. So what?
It's really just, I would like to know,
should have done?
Tell me why he believed everything is fine.
Okay, so you think you deserve an explanation as to why he said everything is fine?
Exactly. In other words, he was called to my house to either arrest me or find out what was happening. He found out what was happening, which is that nothing's fine. There is nothing fine happening whatsoever. And then he walked away as if there was nothing to be done. It's an odd situation. Since you're recording this, again, it's an odd situation for me because if the officer did arrest me, then at the very least, obviously we in San Francisco, so with the DA's office, you never know, but at least we can actually get to the point where we're not arguing back and forth about whether or not everything's fine. In other words, that police officer walked into a situation in which he knows not only in front of him in San Francisco, there's a situation that there needs to be addressed. There's also a situation in Tampa that would need to be addressed. And then he walked away as if there was nothing to be done or could be done. In other words, he couldn't arrest me. So if he couldn't arrest me, why did he show up? He couldn't provide any help. So if he couldn't provide any help, why did he show up? He asked if there was anything he could do. When he was told there were things that he could do, he then didn't do them. So why did he show up?
Okay, so there's different allegations we can make, and so I'm a little confused, so let me throw a few out here.
Okay.
So there's one called failure to take required action. Do you think he should have been required to arrest you or place you on a hold if...
Well, again,
if that's why he showed up,
it seems inappropriate for the whole. This is how screwed up the situation is, right? You're asking me a question that, realistically, as a police officer, would be inappropriate for you to ask me. Like, if I wouldn't be, if I thought I needed to be on a 50-50, if I thought I needed to be on a psychiatric hold, that in itself would be justification for me not being on a hold, because people who need to be on a hold can't make that decision for themselves.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing from you is that he showed up, he said everything is fine, and you're saying that because everything is fine, there's no need for him to show up. Is that correct?
I'm saying because everything is not fine, there was reasons for him to have actions once he showed up, but because that officer believes everything was fine, he should have not showed up in the first place. So he contradicts himself.
Wait, write that down. So you said there's reasons for him to have actions because things were not fine, right?
Exactly.
So you don't agree when he said everything is fine. You don't agree with that because you're saying everything was not fine, correct?
It's not fine. The police were just here again. So I'm just going for the most recent incident, but it's not fine because the police were just here 4 days ago. over the exact same incident and did the exact same thing. The only reason I am not starting with that particular incident is because I don't have a CAD number for that one, and I don't have the officers' names. But this particular incident, I do.
You're talking about, you mentioned, is Officer Lara, Lara, correct?
Yes, there were two officers. I believe I don't have his badge number. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you cut out?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just saying I do not have his badge number.
Okay. So there were two officers?
Yeah, it was Lieutenant Newberg. It's Neuburg, from what I understood, because
Okay, and Officer Lara.
And Officer Lara. There was actually three officers present, but I believe, and I am not sure of this, but I believe it's Officer Lara who did speak to my mother on the phone. Officer Newberg is the person who was communicating with me, who I, was communicating with him about the fact that, there's nothing going, there's nothing okay about the entire situation. Again, for me, even at that time, I was saying the exact same thing that I said to you, which is, at this point, it seems as if you believe that I have mental health issues, and yet you're not able to do anything about it. At this point, because you are police officers, you believe there to be a police action to have been done, and you show you're not doing anything. And you keep asking me if everything's fine, and I'm saying, no, things are not fine. And then you're just, the police officers, both Newberg and Lara, insisted that things are fine, and then just walked off. I couldn't force them to do anything.
And I know you've probably told me this before, but I really want to make sure I understand. So if you said things are not fine, what is not fine?
Well, again, at that particular point, what was not fine was it was not clear whether or not Tampa PD or my mother had called in for the police. Even just not clarifying that is not fine. So there's, there's just that. I mean, why would police officers show up and not clarify why they're here or what they could do if they were there?
So they didn't tell you who called?
Exactly. I've said that many times. They have not clarified as to what exactly happened on that morning, because I have heard contradictory information both from SFPD, Tampa PD, and my mother. And none of those three departments, two police departments or my mother are able to clearly say why they believed on October 5th everything was okay.
Okay.
In other words, all those people, whether it be Tampa PD, SFPD, or my mother, were trying to contact me on that date because they believed things were not okay. And then once they made contact with me, regardless of me saying things are not okay, they walked away and said that they believed things were okay. It makes no sense.
Okay, so when the officers, so you spoke with Officer Newberg, so when they approached you, what did he talk, what did he ask you, what did you say? Again,
the first thing out of my mouth, and again, I apologize for the negative language, but was, why the fuck are you here? And the rest of it's recorded. I don't really remember exactly what went down, exactly what was said between us. I do know that I repeated several times just what I've repeated to you, which is, right now, you're a police officer in front of here. You were called here for a reason. I just need to know what that reason is. When that person when the police officer did not state what that reason is, because there is still an ongoing situation, we then moved on to, well, here's a reason I'm giving you. My mother seems to believe everything's okay. Can you please call her and explain to her that things are not okay? The officer then placed a phone call with my mother in which he had a conversation I could not hear. And then when he ended that conversation, said, I just spoke to your mother. Everything's okay. At which point in time I said, officer, since you just spoke to my mother and you have made a determination that everything's okay, and I am saying to you things are not okay, and you are not putting me on a 50-50 hold, you do not believe that I have mental health issues, but you're also not explaining why you believe that everything's okay. That doesn't seem okay to me. And then the officer left.
Okay, great. I think I got it. All right, hold on one second. I'm going to end the interview. It's 3:55 p.m. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a complaint. You're going to be getting a contact letter from me in the email. It'll have my name, and we'll get some information about our agency, and it will have a copy of your complaint. Just so you know, the complaint will just have like 1 or 2 sentences as a summary, but don't worry, we have like a full summary in our system, but that's just all we put on the complaint.
Okay.
And once we do our investigation, once it's complete, you'll be getting a letter from us as to what our findings are. Our typical findings are usually there's 3 that are the ones we have. It's proper conduct, where we didn't find there was misconduct. The other is improper conduct, and then the other is there's just not enough information to decide one way or the other. And so at the end of the investigation, you'll be receiving a letter with that information on it. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So then, like I said, this exact same incident repeated itself 4 days ago. It may repeat itself tomorrow because I've still been calling Tampa PD every single day. The incident that happened 4 days ago, my focus isn't necessarily on recording the incidents with the officers as far as focusing on them. And so the incident is recorded, but I was kind of just speaking to them and I didn't really focus on them in the video and therefore don't have their badge numbers or their names or anything like that. But it is the exact same incident. It is literally the exact same incident in which...
We'll start with this one because we can't, we're not...
No, I understand we can start with this one, but I would like to...
We'll start with this one and then we'll roll from there, okay?
Okay, but I would like to begin the process. There's several others that I need to begin the process of. In a situation like that that happened, 4 days ago, like I said, I don't have the officers' names or numbers. Is actually what the problem is, that these officers are having contact with me and then leaving and there's no real reports about anything. So that's where, that's where I'm at. Because of the fact that obviously you guys do have the records as to who came out to my apartment that day and whatever reasons you have listed, how do I begin the process of finding that out so that I can actually file an official complaint about that incident?
So we cannot provide you any of that information. Our investigations are confidential. So whatever we find, you have to, if there's a police report, we can't provide you a copy of the police report. You would have to obtain one on your own. If there's body-worn camera footage, we can't share that with you.
Yeah, no, let me clarify. How do you begin a complaint process with an officer who has had an interaction with you, of which, as far as the public knows, there is no records of that interaction, but there are obviously recorded interactions of that interaction?
Well, we are able to locate information for officer interactions. We can look those up.
So in other words, there
is documentation.
So in other words, I don't particularly want to do this right now as it is, but in other words, I can start the complaint process for the incident that happened on Friday. I believe that was the 20th or the 19th, simply by giving you the date and time I had interactions with those officers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the email, so that I can email you the link to the
I'll be sending you an email today, and then you can just reply to that email.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you.
And send the link.
All right. Thank you. Realistically, this is a bigger problem. I mean, that's the thing. Right now, this is what I don't understand is SFPD stance, and I understand your department's difference, but the overall stance, no matter what, that everything's fine. I understand that for you, your process is just filing the complaint, but there does seem to be something missing where there is actually something urgently going on. You're being informed of it, and then it's just like, oh, well, we'll just keep dealing with it later. It seems to be a duplicate of what happened when the police showed up at my house, which is you're acting as if I'm just calling for the fun of it, and yet I can't receive any help for that. Like, if I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I should be able to receive some sort of third party, whether it be a doctor or somebody, to explain to me why it's either appropriate or inappropriate to not kind of address an actual emergency situation.
Right.
So that's just what's very much frustrating me. And I don't understand why the police don't have some sort of process to address an emergency.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for calling us, and I'll be sending you an email very shortly.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.